Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to another episode of The Gentle Path. It's so good to have you here with me today. You know, I've been reflecting a lot lately on the unique challenges and joys that come with this stage of life. And today, I want to talk about something deeply personal, and for many of us, incredibly transformative: how to maintain your independence, your dignity, and your sense of self while still being a loving, supportive parent to your adult children. It's a tricky balance, isn't it? On the one hand, we adore our children. They've been at the center of our world for so long. But on the other hand, as we grow older, we start to realize that we have just as much right to a life of our own, one filled with the things that bring us joy, meaning, and peace. The key is finding harmony. So today, I want to share 6 ideas that might help. These aren't rules, mind you. They're gentle suggestions for anyone looking to live with freedom while still cherishing family ties. Let's begin with the first idea: setting boundaries. Now, I know boundaries can be a tough topic for parents. For most of our lives, we've been ready to drop everything for our kids. But here's something to think about. Is it fair to you or to them if you constantly give up your time, your energy, and even your health to meet their expectations? I once heard Dr. Helen Marcus, a professor of geriatric psychology at Stanford, say that healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect, and that begins with valuing your own needs as much as you value others. And she's absolutely right. Taking care of yourself, setting limits on what you will and won't do, isn't selfish. It's an act of love for you and for them. Take Robert, for example. Robert is in his 70s, a kind man who found himself watching his grandkids 5 days a week. At first, he enjoyed it. After all, who doesn't love extra time with family? But over time, he realized he had given up so much of his personal life, hobbies, friends, even his quiet mornings to himself. When he finally decided to sit down with his children and share his feelings, they were understanding. They found alternative childcare options, and Robert regained his balance. His relationship with his grandkids didn't suffer. In fact, it became even better because he was happier and more at peace. Boundaries are not walls. They're bridges to healthier connections. Let's move on to the second point: protecting your financial security. Oh, how often this one comes up. So many of us parents feel an almost instinctive impulse to help when our kids are in a tough spot. Maybe they're struggling financially, and our first thought is, "I'll help them out. I can manage." But here's what we often forget. Once your savings are gone, it's incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to rebuild them. And as Dr. Judith Cates, a financial expert specializing in senior planning, once said, "The best gift you can give your children is financial independence, for you and for them." Take Harold's story. A retired teacher, Harold spent years dipping into his savings to help his grown son out of various financial troubles. Each time, his son promised to pay him back, but he never did. Eventually, Harold realized something. His constant help wasn't teaching his son to make better choices. It was allowing him to avoid responsibility. Harold made the hard but necessary decision to stop providing monetary bailouts. It was uncomfortable at first, but over time, his son learned to manage his own finances more wisely, and Harold was able to enjoy the security he had worked so hard to build. Now, let's talk about our third idea: nurturing your own life and interests. For so long, we've poured our attention into raising our kids. It's what we know. But as they grow up and build lives of their own, we sometimes forget this simple, essential truth. Your identity isn't solely about being a parent. It's about being you. Think back. What are the things that light you up? Is it painting, traveling, gardening, or maybe reading those novels sitting on your shelf? Let me tell you about Edward. Edward, a retired teacher, had a passion for woodworking. It brought him joy and energy. But after his daughter had a baby, he found his days consumed by babysitting. Over time, his beloved woodworking tools gathered dust in the corner. Thankfully, a good friend encouraged Edward to pick up his hobby again. When he did, something remarkable happened. He felt revitalized. Those moments spent crafting, creating with his hands, gave him a new lease on life. He even joined a local woodworking group and made wonderful new friendships. Now let me ask you a question. If you're honest with yourself, are you nurturing the parts of your life that make you come alive? The next point I want to share is a big one. Teaching self-reliance. You know, it's natural to want to shield our children from hardship. But here's the thing. By constantly stepping in to solve their problems, we may unintentionally hold them back. Life is full of challenges, and learning to navigate them is how we grow strong, resilient, and capable. One story I think about often is Frank's. Frank spent years bailing his grown son out of every scrape. He provided money, fixed mistakes, even dealt with things his son could have handled himself. Then one day, after reflecting on the unsustainable pattern they'd developed, Frank decided to stop rescuing him. He stepped back, and while it was hard at first, his son began to learn to stand on his own 2 feet. Their relationship eventually grew stronger because it was no longer built around dependency, but rather mutual respect. Remember, you're doing your children a favor when you trust them to solve their own problems. Now let's talk about emotional independence. It's so easy, isn't it, to measure our happiness by how often our kids call, visit, or invite us into their busy lives. But this can leave us feeling let down, even resentful. As difficult as it may be, emotional well-being has to come from within. Take Eleanor, a lovely woman in her early 70s. She used to feel crushed when her son canceled plans or didn't call as often as she'd hoped. It took time, but she realized that building her own happiness through friends, hobbies, and activities was the answer. Once she did, something remarkable happened. Her relationship with her son improved. She wasn't relying on him for fulfillment, and he felt less burdened by her expectations. Finally, let's touch on one last guiding idea: the immense value of protecting your peace. You've spent years giving to others. Now it's your turn to savor life on your own terms. Learning to say no when needed isn't a rejection of your family. It's an embrace of your own worth. As Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "It is your life. You and no one else are obligated to make it beautiful." Protect your peace, my dear friends. You've earned it. So, as we close, I hope you'll reflect on these 6 ideas: boundaries, financial security, personal interests, self-reliance, emotional independence, and protecting your peace. Which of these resonates most deeply with you? Wherever you are on your journey, I hope you'll give yourself permission to live as fully, joyfully, and freely as you deserve. Thank you so much for joining me on the Gentle Path. I'm so grateful for this little community we've built together. If this message touched your heart today, please share it with someone who might need to hear it too. Until next time, take care of yourself. You are deeply cherished.